Hello and welcome to Matt and Mike Pull Focus. I'm Mike.
And I'm not.
And today we're going to be joined by Luke Hobson, a boom operator from the English TV channel ITV, who will be speaking to us about the 1985 classic Back to the Future.
Right, so Luke, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We'd like to just first ask you to just tell us a little bit about your life and career to this point and how you got into sound engineering in general.
Cool, yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me. My name's Luke. I work at ITV as a boom operator. I've been there now about 4 years, coming up to 4 years, so not been in the industry too long. Prior to that, I studied at university in TV and media production, which was a very general course. So it wasn't specific to sound or any other department or technicality. And sort of by the third year, you've had a little go at everything from camera operating, sound, boom operating, vision mixing, editing, producing, directing, etc. And by the third year, you're then expected to specialise in a certain area. And to begin with, I didn't specialise in sound. I went down the directing route, and for my final project, I directed a sitcom that I also wrote, a pilot of a sitcom.
Well, that's great. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it was called The Cinema, and it was obviously set in a cinema, and it was called Cineflix, which is a bit of a play on words from Cineworld and Netflix.
You're talking to two ex-cinema rushers as well, so I think we have a vested interest in trying to see this, just to see all the different in-jokes that you would have been writing about that we would be on the same wavelength about.
Met at the Odeon cinema, that's where we worked, or we might not be able to say that, but
you just doxed us there.
We met at the cinema where we worked together, and
really?
Yeah, you see a lot working at a cinema, don't you, Luke? You see the sort of the wide spectrum of humanity and what people won't do. You know what I mean?
So I've never worked in one, but I went to the cinema, as a kid every week with, if you remember, Orange Wednesdays.
Oh yes,
they're still going, yeah.
Cheapy deal. I can only imagine. I've done customer facing roles in the past, and I can only imagine what people you've had through the doors.
The stories we could tell you, Luke.
We could write a book about the customers and the staff, actually. But the customers are
left for a better day.
Anyway, back to you. So obviously, I'm guessing you grew up as a big film fan. Was that something that came from your parents? Did you watch a lot of movies with your family, or?
So I've always been more interested in TV as opposed to film. The Office US is a definite favourite. I always try and watch something that's a bit light-hearted, just because of how bad the world is at the minute. I try and stay away from the dark stuff. If I want to laugh, it'll be The Office. I do love Stranger Things, if either of you have seen that.
Brilliant.
Classic, yeah.
Love it.
Ted Lasso on Apple TV.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Brett Goldstein's podcasts, actually. So I know about Ted Lasso through him talking about it on his podcast, because he does this great podcast called Films to be Buried With.
I haven't watched any episodes of it myself, but all I've seen is like phrases saying it's chicken soup for the soul. It's so uplifting, so heartwarming. And
it's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking I'm going to wait for a really rough part of my life and just like
when I'm on standby.
Exactly, when I need it the most, I'll crack out Ted Lasso and make myself feel better again.
Definitely one for the back burner.
We've kind of gone off, Luke.
Yeah, no,
we've kind of just gone to what films and TV were like.
Yeah, because I was going to say, just to bring it back to your sort of life and career. You said you started on Coronation Street 4 years ago. You had done sound 101, boom operating 101, I guess, at college, at uni going through. So can you tell us what's first day being a boom operator on Coronation Street like? I mean, is it a scary experience? Are you nervous, or is it you just walk in and it feels natural? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, it is quite a strange place to walk into for the first time. Obviously, you don't know anyone, and there's hundreds of people that work there doing all different jobs. so I remember getting to the gate because I didn't have a pass at the time to go through the sort of the back turnstile. So I had to go to the main door, and the security guard went, "Background, is it? Extra?" I went, "No, I'm here for the sound department first day." "Oh, come on in," So yeah, I did get a very warm welcome on the gate. But yeah, walking in to a completely sort of alien environment. It's like first day at big school, first day at high school. Yeah, quite strange. I mean, so I started as a trainee, so you're not expected to go in and know everything and do everything. You know, it was a very gradual sort of, what's the word? Baby steps. And I was taught everything really from the ground up. So yeah, we weren't thrown in at the deep end. I started with 2 other lads at the time. They took 3 on in that particular year, and we sort of just got to know each other really well and help each other out if we ever got stuck on something.
Right. So it really is. It's an education. It's being back at uni, but being taught by people who are doing it day in, day out. And how do they make space for you around the stuff being filmed? I mean, are you sort of shadowing the real action that's going on, or do they kind of take you to one side and spend days with you, in a warehouse somewhere filming, or what do they? How does that work? Do they sort of give you private lessons, or is it more like you're just learning from the street? Or
no, so due to how fast the turnaround is of episodes, I was put straight on a crew. So you had on a typical crew, you would have 3 boom operators and then a sound supervisor who sat in the gallery and they're mixing what we're booming in the studio. So I was basically shadowing those boom operators and seeing what they'd do, asking questions, getting a feel for it. On a lunchtime, we were then encouraged to get on the boom and just have a play around, basically, whilst there was no one there. So the job is split into 2 areas. So you've got interiors and exteriors. Exterior is your typical, what you can imagine a boom to look like, basically a long pole with a dead dog on the end of it. The studio is different. So we use something called a Fisher boom, which is a big platform. It's got a big long arm on it with all sort of different strings and pulleys. So you have to physically rack the boom in and out. So it really is a skill in itself to sort of master the Fisher boom side of the job. So it does take a while to get used to it. I mean, 4 years in, I still make mistakes. Everyone does. But yeah, the first few months really are quite intense trying to get your head around so many different things. Because internally, you've got to think of, are you going through any lights, which are causing shadows on the set? You've obviously got to follow the script. You've also got to follow the shots, which are on the script. So if the next shot is a wide shot, we need to get that boom out of shot. It's the best way to describe being a boom operator on a Fisher boom is sort of patting your head, rubbing your stomach and juggling all at the same time.
Yeah.
Pretty easy stuff then. That's good to know.
Because I've on my experience working on like short films and stuff like that, I've had experience with boom operating and stuff like that. You're just all self-taught, just doing my own thing. I really felt that the person in charge on a film set, it might be different in studio and so on, was the camera person. Because I felt that if they weren't ready to go, then nobody was ready to go, if you know what I mean. I don't know, do you feel the same way? Because, you would assume the director was in charge, but to me it always felt like the camera person was basically, when they're ready, everyone has to be ready, if you know what I mean.
I get what you mean. I don't feel that necessarily where I work, because sound are always ready to go. It's very rare. It's quite rare we hold up the production. There's technicals in all departments that may stop you from rolling when you want to roll. I think, sort of from what I see, when the director is happy with what they want, we're sort of all happy and ready to go for a take. Yeah, I mean, you could say that the camera operators have some clout in that. Obviously, if they're not ready, then we can't go. But that sort of works for all departments, because if sound aren't ready, the sound's going to be bad for the picture, and if cameras aren't ready, the frame's going to be bad for the sound. So I think everyone has to work in tandem, and it's a collective effort, really. At the end of the day, we all work for one purpose, and that's to make that particular scene or that episode or block of episodes work and come together.
So I think my last question for you, Luke, is, I mean, you seem, to me, I think you just achieved it. It just seems like you were there, you're on a professional set, you're doing, what you want to be doing. Is there anything you want to do further from this? Do you want to go into film, or do you want to do a different field, or is there anything, what's next for you, if anything?
I'm happy where I am for the time being. I mean, never say never. I think years ago, I had this idea where, I might work in live entertainment for a while, and then I might work in drama, I might go to film, might do this, that, and the other. But then you think realistically, my life now is in Manchester, and I don't want to move from here. I've got family here. I've got a job that pays a monthly wage. If you go freelance, for instance, because I know a lot of freelancers, and sometimes they don't know where the next paycheck's coming from, and I don't want to take that sort of risk. And I certainly wouldn't want to move to London. I went there last week for a little holiday, and I couldn't live there full time. But there's so much production moving up to the north. It's unbelievable. So yeah, who knows? But for the time being, definitely happy at ITV in Manchester.
Great. Well, congratulations, man. I mean, I'm so happy for you, and you seem to be in a really great place and a great job. And Mike, have you got any, before we move on to Back to the Future, have you got any questions you'd like to ask?
Just similar to what Matt said, congratulations on getting the position that you've already got. And anytime there's a boom in shot, I'll just go, I know that, I know him, I know Luke.
That'll never happen.
No, of course
That'll never happen.
Professional like you.
Recently,
We'll watch him.
About a year ago, 2 years ago, I think it was a crew member in shot, and I mean, it goes. I think it was a boom operator as well. Physically him in shot, not just the boom. It's staggering because the episodes go through so many checks before they air. It's amazing how no one picked up on it, but there you go.
It wasn't in the Rover's Return, was it? You couldn't just try and make him blend into the background or anything.
Was it obvious? Yeah.
It was on location. I think it was behind a tree.
Oh, no.
You just recognise, because you know the person as well, so you just recognise it's not just a weirdo standing behind a tree watching what's going on.
That's the farmer. He's holding a boom mic. Don't worry about him. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, these things, when you're looking...
I don't know.
I know, yeah, that's a special payment, that, isn't it? Shot. Yeah, that's extra pay. Right, so Lou, we asked you to bring in a film to talk about. So Back to the Future is your choice. So can you tell us? I mean, we both love this movie, don't we? I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Childhood favourite. I can't remember a time when I hadn't seen Back to the Future. It's one of these things that feels like it's always been there. Can you remember when you first saw it? Was it was it a re-release at the cinema? Was it a VHS experience? Was it DVD? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think it was a Blockbuster rental job, VHS.
Oh yeah,
classic.
VHS, yeah, in the blue box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I think one Friday night after school, we were took to Blockbuster, and that was one of the sort of the top picks and on the shelf at the time, and we decided to watch that. And
I mean, was it was it just falling in love at first sight? Was it just one of these movies that you just adored from start to finish?
Yeah, it was pretty wow, and obviously as a kid wanting to work in TV, film, whatever, I was just sort of encapsulated by the special effects, the costume. What the wall, the whole 80s thing. I've always been a fan of the 80s. I never grew up in the 80s, but if I could go back in time or pick a birth year, I would definitely pick it sort of
Yeah, so maybe born in the so you could grow up like well and truly in the 80s. How old are you, Luke? If you don't mind me asking, I wasn't sure actually. You're only 28.
Oh, you're a young'un.
Yeah, we're 33, so we are technically 80s kids. I was born in 88.
I'm currently wearing a T-shirt that says "Made in the 80s." So
there you go.
What are the odds on that? Ridiculous.
But having said that, we are 90s kids really because we grew up, with our first memories being sort of mid to early 90s. But it's amazing how much the 80s has become a sort of a pop cultural icon in itself in terms of like like Stranger Things being a prime example of, and all these movies like Super 8, the Spielberg movie, where it's like it fetishizes the 80s so much, doesn't it? It is such a style that you just look at it and you go, that's 80s style. Do you know what I mean? It's become this thing, like it used to be the 70s style, now it's 80s style, and even now movies like mid 90s, it's like the 90s style is now becoming something recognizable. So like the clothing, the skateboarding, everything like that. Because the thing that got me when I first saw Back to the Future was him on the skateboard. I just thought that was the coolest thing that I'd ever seen. Holding onto the back of the pickup truck and everything like that.
Well, ironically, like their love of the 1950s in Back to the Future is what we would be doing with the 80s now. So there's like a 30-year gap in between like the periods. So it's Back to the Future Part 2 like takes place like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
so it's
in
just weird how
2015.
that's all happening. Yeah,
that was a crazy time, wasn't it? During when you got to 2015 and you were like, this is meant to be the Back to the Future now.
Where are our floating skateboards? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you felt the same, guys, but when I first saw it, I didn't think the DeLorean was a real car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I assumed it was made up for the movie.
I think that finished production just before the movie was shot. That particular
like 84 or something like that.
Yeah.
A friend of mine basically was a huge Back to the Future fan growing up, and he actually saved up his pennies, and when he was 21, he bought a DeLorean. So he saved up, he worked, he was one of like the first of our crew to kind of get a job, and like grow up and properly get a job and start making money. And I went round to his, he kept it at his grandparents' house for a while because the garage was big enough, because it's such a wide car. They put it in their shed, and he left the garage door open and the wheel just visible, and he didn't tell me, and it was one of those moments where I was like talking to him about something, and I just went did a double take. And I just looked and I was like, have you got it? And he was like, I've got it. And it was my wedding car. He brought it to my wedding. Wow. And and everything like that. And it is so cool to sit in that car. Sits right on the ground, so you're really low. And when there's a sort of a leather strap that you pull down, and the door closes, and when the door closes, it's like silent in there. It's like this. So it's like being in a spaceship. It's awesome. So we went through kind of. So I know 3 DeLorean owners now because of him.
That's crazy.
Because when you know one, you know a few because they're such a kind of a clique. So yeah, if you ever need a DeLorean for a shoot or anything,
I did see one a few years ago at Media City.
Oh really?
It might have been the anniversary of the film, and for whatever reason, there was one parked outside the BBC buildings. Didn't get the chance to go in it, but yeah, took a couple of pictures on the exterior.
It was probably one of my mates actually.
It probably was.
There's only 5 or 6 of them in the Northwest, I think, or maybe four in the Northwest.
I was really worried that story was going to end in a very bad way. I thought you were going to say like he saved up so much money, crashed it immediately, or something like that. No, it was nicked from him because he left the door open, or something like that.
The garage door was left open, I thought you said it got nicked.
It was nicked.
I could see the look on your face, Luke, and I was like, I'm there with you. Please no.
I should have said because it was like this kind of side, when a garage has a front opening door, but then it has like a side door that you come out of. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's an amazing machine. It's heavy. It's made of stainless steel. It's and in the movie they kind of say something about like he says like when he's describing, they do this plot exposition about how it works. He says before the Libyans show up, he says like, and the stainless steel frame helps and then it's like, look out, and they jump out of the way. So when they're trying to explain the science, they actually mention the stainless steel chassis is like good for time travel and all this kind of thing. So the way they kind of fit that car in with the movie's logic and everything is just amazing.
Yeah, I think in the scripts the entire idea about why it's a DeLorean is because it's like the most space age looking car.
Yeah.
So the fact that Marty goes back in time and pretends to be Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan,
Yeah.
I think they were just thinking, okay, what car is so readily available that looks like a spaceship that would actually surprise people in the 50s.
And he burns out his dad's ears with the Van Halen tape. I love that, he's like plays it. It's like his dad's ears like which is played by
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover, yeah. It's not. So do you think this might be one of the movies that you've watched the most? Luke, would you say?
Yeah. Again, it's one of those feel-good films, and it takes you. I mean, I love all the sort of 80s nostalgia, as we've mentioned, and yeah, it just takes you to a happy place almost. It's just it's a good watch.
Have you ever seen the movie Gremlins? That was like a sort of a big kind of 80s movie.
I think I've seen bits of that. I don't think I've seen the full thing.
Well, if you ever get around to watching, because that's kind of a movie set at Christmas, so it's kind of like it usually is on around Christmas, because again, it's not necessarily a Christmas movie, but it's set at Christmas time. And if you watch that, they used, basically they built the set for Back to the Future before for Gremlins, basically, so and then reused it for Back to the Future, and it's a Universal Studios set. So if you watch like basically the town in Gremlins when the camera's panning down and you seeing the town, it's all covered in snow. That's the clock tower set.
Oh, it's Hill Valley.
It's Hill Valley, basically,
Nice.
yeah. So it's really, once you know it, I really wish someone hadn't told me, because like once you watch it, you're like, oh, that's where the DeLorean goes along, and crashes into the.
You've ruined it for us now. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, honestly, it's crazy.
I would probably
next
watch
time
that
watch
had
it.
you have not said, and maybe thought, oh, it looks familiar. I'm having deja vu
Yeah.
or something, but
Yeah, definitely, it would be in your subconscious somewhere, because if you've seen that movie enough, and. For me, I mean, I don't think people like give Michael J. Fox enough credit for that performance, because everyone
No,
talks
not at
about Doc Brown being so out there.
Yeah.
But Marty holds that film together, man. Like, that character, because you relate. He's just so much like the every kid, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or the every man, of the movie. It's just such a great performance.
Especially because it wasn't meant to be him.
No, did you know about this, Luke? I only found this out recently. And who was the guy? Was it Eric Stoltz?
Eric Stoltz, was originally the guy. He had done a few scenes with the crew and the cast, and he just was taking everything way too seriously, and it wasn't really fitting the mode, the mood of the film.
Yeah,
and
he didn't
the
have that
character
fun
well.
kind of, energy that Michael J. Fox had. So they filmed, I think it was 4 weeks they filmed with him.
Yeah.
And then, Robert Zemeckis, the director, sat him down and said, sorry, man, this is...
not
I mean,
working.
can you imagine a worse day of your life?
Well, Eric Stoltz apparently felt the same. He was like,
Oh,
no,
really?
it's not for me. I don't think this is working out well.
Well, ask him. He took it well.
Yeah, definitely.
so then they had to reshoot
it-
4 weeks worth of stuff.
Honestly,
Essentially.
like if you go on YouTube and you type Eric Stoltz Back to the Future, you can watch the scenes. That he
like the
shot
diner scene with Biff
identical
and
scenes
stuff,
with the same actors, delivering the lines, but Eric Stoltz instead. And I don't think he's that bad. I think it's he's not Michael J. Fox, but
No.
he's all right. It's not like terrible.
Yeah, it just would have been a totally different film, I feel, because like the energy that Michael J. Fox brings to Marty is so, I don't know, iconic. You can just tell how he acts, and you can do like a decent impression of him. And,
Yeah, because he's got that kind of breaking voice.
Plus, he works with Crispin Glover and Leah Thompson so well. They've got like a really good chemistry, the three of them. That I just feel like Eric Stoltz would have been like the buzzkill of that area. It feels like.
You'd been like, is this really our lead in this movie? Like, but yes, it's true actually.
Plus, he's such a method actor. He made them call him Marty on set.
Eric did.
Eric Stoltz did, yeah, and he was like wearing the set clothes like to and from the set, and like so much so that when Christopher Lloyd was told that Eric Stoltz had been fired, he was like, "Who's Eric?" I was like, no, Marty. I thought Marty was his actual name.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yeah, they hadn't even disclosed his real name to him because he was that serious. And like, you can't imagine Marty McFly being like that method. It's not Christian Bale working here, is it? It's
it's like that's that. Yeah, he does sound like a bit of a job's work.
a little bit, yeah. So I'm glad that Marty got it.
Actors, yeah.
Not all of them.
Next time, yeah. I hadn't realised kind of, twigged who Eric Stoltz was, because when I heard the name I thought, I don't know any of his other films, and then I rewatched Pulp Fiction, and do you know the scene where like John Travolta buys his heroin from the drug dealer, that's Eric Stoltz.
Right.
So like he went from, that was his next kind of, I mean, he did a lot of stuff in between, but that was his sort of, I guess, probably one of his biggest roles, really.
The big ginger burnout from that.
Is he called Jesus? Or
is he?
I don't know. It kind of looks like Jesus anyway.
The one who helped stab Uma Thurman in the heart with a needle. That's all you need to know him.
Got to bring the needle down in a stabbing motion. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
I wonder if he regrets it now, considering the success.
I know, possibly, man. Like, possibly, you know, who knows?
I'd say so. I'd say it's catapulted Michael J. Fox into like household name status. So I can't imagine that he was looking at it going, "Yeah, I'm glad I didn't take that." You know,
there was a really modest interview with the actor who plays Biff, whose name is, any idea?
Thomas something.
Mike's good with names.
Usually,
I'm good with faces.
Thomas Hansen or something like that. I think
that guy. Anyway, Mike will Google him in the meantime. But there was an interview with him where he said like, "So I heard that someone was getting fired, you know, on the set," and he's like, "I assumed it was me. I thought because I didn't feel like this was working either." And so he said he went to, you know, the office, like Robert Zemeckis' office. He was summoned. He went in, and it was to be told that Eric was getting fired. So, like, to be nice to him and to maybe give him some space or whatever. And he said he was doing that thing like, "Oh, no, Eric, no, oh, shit, no." And he was walking out like, "Yes!" You know, because he thought he was getting canned.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Matt, the weird set, man. Weird set.
Yeah,
definitely. A
definitely.
lot of tension. Yeah.
It doesn't come across, though. I'd say that it's, like you say, Luke, it's one of the most enjoyable kind of light-hearted, whimsical films that there is, and I feel like the score is a massive reason behind that. It's very floaty, very light.
The music is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just very energetic. Marty's always running from one scene to another, or like he's skating behind a car, and there's always just like something going on. It never takes its not that it doesn't take its time, because it does in some parts, but it's just there's always something going. There's always the plot is going at such a fast pace that you just enjoy yourself all the way through. Yeah,
it's the same guy who did the music for Predator as well. So next time you watch Predator, you'll hear it's such a similar score. Like when
very
you hear
light-hearted films.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's like it, but it fits so well, doesn't it?
Very big
it's almost
contrast.
like
Massively.
But there's such stakes in Back to the Future. There's there's always they're always in such a hurry, literally beating the clock, you know, and getting everything done. It never lets up, does it? There's not one like down scene. Like the whole thing is just constantly running at such a pace.
The photograph of the fading brothers and sisters is always the ticking clock all the way through it, and
that's a massive theme throughout the film.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the picture and stuff. Like, even if the time travel logic is a little bit like skew-iffed, but having that picture,
I don't mind it personally. The time travel elements in this, I feel like, are some of the, I don't know, the one that you don't worry about the most. It's not like a grandfather kind of clause thing. It's not Terminator rules, but it's just
It's
things
fairly
are slowly fading.
fairly logical,
That's all.
isn't it? It's fairly simple and like logical. The thing that struck me as not like strange in that, you know, I think it's a bad thing because I think it's a great plot device, but is the incestuous mother relationship because that's where most of the comedy comes from.
You may want to rephrase that. I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think it's a problem. I think it's fine. But what I mean
Luke's
is
regretting being on the show now.
Yeah. Right, cut. We're done. We're done. I'm out of it. But no, it's what am I trying to say? What I mean is it's kind of you know, it's very, very sort of cringeworthy now.
Yeah, you look back on it and it's kind of like, oh, that's a bit weird.
I can't believe a mainstream movie went with that as a plot. I'm glad they did because it's fucking great and it works and it's so funny.
That's the thing. The comedy value behind it really is worth putting that strand in, definitely.
It's like they had a round table and they thought, what's the worst thing that could happen if you went back in time and met your parents? Yeah. That's the worst thing.
But I always find that that's a really awkward part of it when you're trying to describe the film to a person who's never seen it before. And it's just like, okay, so trying to get his mum and dad to fall in love with each other because she's kind of fallen in love with him. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, don't worry about that. We skirt over that part, that's fine.
Karen.
Sorry, guys. We seen the musical version of it last week.
Was it any good?
Yeah, and I've got to say, it is unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah. If you were to watch it, and you were to compare Michael J. Fox's performance to Marty in the musical, who's played by Ollie Dobson, you'd struggle to tell the two apart.
Really?
And the same with the doc performances as well.
That's awesome.
I'm really glad to hear that because I would literally, if I had tickets, I would have been literally like biting my knuckles, you know, thinking this better be good.
Do it well.
That's great, man. course. Do they have like a DeLorean on stage? Do they do the whole like thing? Oh,
that's fantastic. You probably know who owns that one as well.
Yeah.
I'll not tell you too much about it, but obviously, in case you see it, but it's everything you'd want in a musical version and more.
And more. It's one of they sort of play with your expectations, like they kind of maybe take it in slightly different directions and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's good. That's always a worry. It's such hallowed ground, that film, but it's just anytime there's rumours of a remake, or I think I remember one once. I think it was like early 2010s. They were talking about maybe having Justin Bieber star as Marty McFly and Russell Brand be Doc Brown.
What?
And it was just because like they were just like the it people at the time, that they were just like, oh, you know what would be great? This. But in doing some research for this conversation, I saw that Robert Zemeckis and I think it's Bob Gale, the other writer of it, has said, as long as we're alive, it's never going to get remade or rebooted. So I'm just like, praise the Lord. Let them live forever, please. Yeah.
So basically, they turned around and said, oh, all the fans are saying we want a Back to the Future 4. And their reply was, no, you can have a musical instead.
Right, okay. So
the musical, I think, from what I've read, they've sort of planned it for the last 30 years, and they said they weren't going to do a musical until they could get it right. So obviously they've got it right. It's now on, and as I say, it's phenomenal. It really is worth getting tickets to see. I think it's on till the middle of next year. I might try and get down and see it again. I can't stress enough how good it was.
Oh, that's great.
You give me a great idea for Matt's Christmas present there. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Luke. There's, I think it's one of these things like you think to yourself, you know, what is ripe for a musical adaptation? And when you think about Back to the Future, it's so melodramatic, the whole thing. Characters speak to themselves and say what they're thinking, you know, already. Like, you know, when his mother, you know, says, like, he's such a dream, you know, so like, she's basically talking to the camera.
Yeah.
So it's kind of breaking the fourth wall already. So, and Doc's obviously, you know, Christopher Lloyd is insane. So, like, that whole performance is just fantastic and so flamboyant. So it does feel like, you know, right for a musical adaptation already. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like that kind of thing. But I think Christopher Lloyd's performance in this is I associate it so much with my childhood because I also was a huge fan of the Addams Family movies around this time. So I had so much Christopher Lloyd in my life when I was a kid. You know, I didn't see Cuckoo's Nest till a bit later and other movies that he'd been in. But like Uncle Fester and Doc Brown.
He's the bad guy in the Dennis film, if you've ever seen that as well.
Oh no, Dennis the Menace?
Well, American's Dennis the Menace, the blonde one.
I never saw that.
Well, yeah, he's the bad guy in that.
Really?
Yeah, he's like a tramp who
I'll
tries
watch
to
it
steal
for
money.
Lloyd. Like,
there
I
you
love
go.
him so much.
Yeah.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Of course. Have you ever seen that one, Luke?
No.
That's a great one. That was 88, so it's very late 80s. But it's Christopher Lloyd plays a villain, but a really dark,
sinister kind of goofy villain. Yeah,
pulls it off. You know, he's
ridiculously.
Great. He's really slim and like his face is really gaunt. And he's called Judge Doom, and he's like this really kind of sedate, like evil character, and it's completely different from Doc Brown, and it's completely different from Uncle Fester.
Yeah,
like, you know, with the fat suit and everything like that. So
yeah,
it's he's what an actor, man. I love everything he's done. He's just brilliant. You know,
I'm surprised by how the age difference isn't as much as I thought it was in the film. Like Marty being like 17 and Doc being like 60, but the fact is that like he was much younger and Marty was a lot older.
He was aged up a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, so much so that like in Back to the Future 2, they just like rip off the makeup and just like have him be his normal age, saying, "I had a facelift. That's fine."
I like that.
Explains everything. And I didn't really pick up on that.
You can do that when they're traveling through time.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, you can basically do what you want and.
De-aging exists in the future. It's fine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's your feelings about the sequels, Luke? I mean, like, do you discount them completely, or do you like them all? You know, the same. What was your feelings about that?
I don't dislike them, but I think the original and I'm pretty much the same opinion of any sort of series or sequels or whatever. The first one usually is the best. And I think watching that as a kid, obviously the first part of it, just captured your imagination so much, and you've sort of got a special bond to that particular film.
Yeah,
Not to say the others
absolutely,
are crap or whatever, but the first one for me is the one.
I think for me personally, I agree with you. I mean, the first one's untouchable, like, you know, absolutely, and works alone perfectly. I think for me, they always came as a 3, because I was always, the first time I watched them was when I was on holiday in Scotland with my grandparents, where I always used to go. You went every year, and their neighbour, he was the first person that I ever knew that had a sort of a video collection or a video library, and he just had walls of videos. It was an absolute paradise, you know. So we used to go around to this neighbour's house, and he would just lend us whatever we wanted. Like, I was like, "There's a Mario Brothers." Yeah, honestly, yeah. I was like, "There's a Mario Brothers movie." I didn't even know that was a thing. You know, picked it off the shelf.
Then you got disappointed.
But, yeah, but anyway, but having that kind of access anyway. So I remember we'd always, you know, grip them as a 3, you know, off the shelf, and take them home. And the covers were identical with the sort of different, you know, characters in each one. However, I think I much prefer the third to the second. I would, really? For me, it's 1, 3, 2.
Oh wow, okay,
very much so. And what do you? I mean, do you feel the second one?
I'm going to be the awkward person here because I prefer 2.
Really?
I was such a big futuristic kind of kid that I just love the idea of going into the future and like the big
flying
jaws,
cars
the flying cars, the hoverboards, just everything like that. And the idea, I always love the idea of going into the future, finding out the sports almanac results, coming back and becoming rich. That whole idea. Not that
Donald Trump.
I wouldn't become Donald Trump. Let's not say that. But that idea always appealed to me. And I don't know. I was always looking to the future, right? Because I didn't really associate that well with 1950s America. So that whole like kind of thing was kind of lost on me. But like into the future, anything could happen. Yeah. So that kind of.
I think weirdly for me, it stops dead a bit with the. I don't mind the future stuff because that's kind of new. When they go back to the 50s again.
Yeah.
I find, it's so well done. You know, it's incredible filmmaking. But I just found that a little dull. I felt like the way the third one was set in a completely different space. That kind of was, and I'm not even a big Western guy really, to be honest. But like, I just love that and the train stuff and Clara and that whole thing, and there's ZZ Top playing, you know, the tune, and I don't know, I like it. I like the third one, I think.
Yeah, they're all fantastic. They've all got their own little quirks to make them all of our individual favourites, it seems. Yeah. Yeah,
I'd be interested to know what your two favourite movies of all time are. Obviously, favourite each.
That's what an interesting question. We probably covered them on the podcast.
When you emailed me last week and said, think of a movie, I could not get it down to one. I really couldn't. There was a few that were going around. There
was a long list. Was it quite a long list that you had in your head?
Wasn't necessarily a long list. There was probably about 6 on there. But I had to think, like, what is the all-time favourite? You know, and
what's the one film? It's so tough, isn't it? Yeah.
If you could watch one film for the rest of your life, which one would it be? And I had to go. I just had to pick Back to the Future. So I'd be interested to know what your favourite movies are.
Well, it's not just that, but it's like, not only is it my favourite, but I can speak about it for a long time. There's like a lot that you really want to discuss about it, which I completely understand why you've picked this one, because it's like so loved by so many people.
It's a great choice, man. It's got everything in it, I think, you know. So I think if we're talking stuck on a desert island, one movie,
you're never going to get tired of this.
You're never going to get tired of it. It's got loads of stuff. I think to me that's almost like a different question. You know, because I don't want to get to split hairs too much. But, because that's why I love Goldstein's podcast, because he sort of says, what's the movie that you think is the best movie ever made, but not necessarily your favourite? What's the movie that you've watched the most? What's the movie that you love the most? You know, it's kind of, to give you the short answer, Luke, it'll be There Will Be Blood, which is a 2007 Paul W.S. Anderson? No.
Paul Thomas
Anderson.
Paul
Thomas Anderson. Oh, fuck that
Paul
one.
Paul W.S. is the bad one.
I always forget he's the bad one.
Paul Thomas is the good one.
Paul Thomas Anderson. Sorry, he directed Resident Evil. It's not that guy.
Not that guy.
That guy. Okay, so So it's There Will Be Blood. Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood.
We're keeping that in.
Have you ever seen anything on that?
I haven't seen that. I've never heard of it.
It's a
Luke likes happy films. He's not going to watch the one of the most dreary, world-weary films ever made.
It's I quite like melancholic, end of the world, sort of, like very kind of dark, verging on, I love horror, I'm a big horror fan, but, this movie is kind of, how would you explain it? It's kind of a neo-Western horror drama.
Wow.
Neo-Western horror drama. Basically, it's about Daniel Day-Lewis is the star, and he is an oil baron who is basically becomes one of the richest men in America, you know, and is digging for oil around. But it's kind of in that era when they were still, you know, discovering wells and like bringing the oil up. And it's quite simple, really. It's basically about this guy who is a complete sociopath, psychopath, basically making enemies while he's doing his work, and how his revenge and his pettiness kind of comes, you know, back to bite him in the arse. It's just it for some reason it struck a chord with me. I just love it. I absolutely love everything about it. But you know, having said that, in terms of rewatch value movies, I might not want to watch that movie every day. You know what I mean? I might rather watch Back to the Future, you know, or something like that. But for rewatch, maybe I don't know. So I mean, like Terminator 2 or something, you know. Like
I'm surprised you're not saying Exorcist or American Werewolf.
Well, but again, rewatch fun, you know, in the sort of Luke's kind of thinking.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Is I think that's, you know, probably something. I think I've probably watched like Terminator 2 the most, or a movie like that. Maybe Predator.
Sure.
The original Predator, because they're fun, they're action packed, they're violent, gory, so you get your horror, but they're also kind of more light-hearted. I think, you know, There Will Be Blood I'll watch once a year and absolutely adore it, but I could watch Terminator 2 every day.
There are no jokes in There Will Be Blood.
No, there's no humour in it.
Hence the title.
Yeah. So yeah, Mike.
Well, I mean, on that kind of same thing, I'd say probably Jurassic Park. It's probably the film I've watched the most over my entire life. I could just pop that on, and just any point that it's on TV, if I catch it, I can just watch it from that point onwards.
But similarly, your favourite film would be.
But my favourite film at the moment, well, I'd probably say Memento. Yeah.
I don't mean to speak over him. That was a guess. I had to try and I want to see how well I know him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Memento, Luke, it's basically a guy tries to solve his wife's murder with no short-term memory. He's been injured and he has everything just fades, so he's trying to lead an investigation by tattooing things on his body, trusting the people that he meets, but it's all told in reverse. Like the entire film is told like one bit at a time, but like starting with the end and moving to the middle, and it's done in such a fantastic way that I just appreciate it. Every time I watch it, I appreciate it more, I'd say.
Is it? So it's definitely,
recommend.
You don't just watch it the once.
No, it has amazing rewatch value, personally.
You watch it once and you'll be scratching your head for the rest of your life. You know, it really is kind of second, third, fourth watch. He makes movies. Christopher Nolan tends to, like, he made Tenet. Is it Tenet?
Yeah.
Tenet,
the Dark Knight trilogy.
The Dark Knight trilogy, but he makes movies, you know, that are kind of, they really make you think, you know, they're real head scratchers. And but I think that's good in a way, because, you know, he's not making films for people to watch once, and that's, you know, that's it. These movies will probably get better the more you watch
Inception,
them.
Prestige, he's got a habit of just making things like that.
I was going to say, you know, in one of those things with Inception, I think I've watched it 3 times now and I'm still not there with it.
I think I fully got it on my 7th time. My 7th time through, I was like, okay, now I get it. Thank you. Yes.
No, I'm with you, Luke. I've never really been a big fan of Inception, to be honest. Like,
that's because you haven't watched it enough.
Yeah, okay. I've only watched it. I've probably seen it twice. I've only seen it twice.
5 more times. You'll get your head around it. Exactly.
Yeah, clearly. But yeah, no. So some recommendations there for you, Luke. Anyway,
definitely.
And you know, check them out. There Will Be Blood. It's absolutely amazing.
You've got to be in the right mood for There Will Be Blood, though, Luke. Don't go in thinking it's going to be a Jurassic Park or Back to the Future. My God.
That might be a mid-January watch when everything's blue.
Oh, mate. Oh, God. There Will Be Blood in mid-January. Jesus Christ.
Don't do that to yourself. Wait until July. Wait until a barbecue day or something like that.
Yeah, have a drink handy, definitely.
So that's all from Luke, Matt and myself today, so thank you very much for joining us, Luke. If you'd like to hear more from us, subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to like this video, as it really helps with the algorithm. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Twitch now by searching for the name Matt and Mike Pull Focus. Say goodbye, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
Say goodbye, Luke.
Bye, Luke.
And that's goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.